Welcome to the Mediation Pack for Spectrum Control training presentation, for the IBM Operations Analytics Predictive Insights product. In this presentation we will discuss the following topics. Overview of the Mediation Pack. Prerequisites for the Mediation Pack. Spectrum Control Mediation Pack Introduction. Spectrum Control Mediation Pack Data and Metrics. Installing and configuring the Spectrum Control Mediation Pack. Deploying the data model, and data training. Support and troubleshooting. And, Operations Analytics Media Resources. The IBM Operations Analytics Predictive Insights Mediation Pack for Spectrum Control provides a pre-built model for data ingestion. This model is then used to forecast behavior outside of the modeled range, which generates alarms. The Spectrum Control Mediation Pack provides metric data in CSV format, for which the Mediation Pack will use to formulate content into predictive insights. The diagram at the bottom of the slide shows that scripts running on the Spectrum Control server retrieve Spectrum Control metrics, which are then transferred to the Predictive Insights server. A Python script that runs on the Predictive Insights server then formats the metrics into 5-minute interval CSV files, which are then ingested by the Predictive Insights product. The following is a list of prerequisites that are needed for the Spectrum Control Mediation Pack. Predictive Insights versions 1.3.3, 1.3.5, or 1.3.6 must be installed prior to installing the Mediation Pack. The Mediation Pack supports Spectrum Control version 5.2.13 or higher. We will now discuss the Spectrum Control solution overview, which include the topics of the source of the metrics to be ingested by Predictive Insights. As mentioned before, the Spectrum Control Mediation Pack provides metric by running scripts on the Spectrum Control server every 15 minutes, which will send the data to the Predictive Insights server, where a Python script formats the metrics into 5-minute CSV files. Predictive Insights is then configured to pull in the content from the CSV files. The following slides shows tables that illustrates how the metric content from the CSV files are used in the Predictive Insights product. The first metric group is for the storage system group. The next metric groups are the I/O groups, the storage ports, and the nodes. The last storage metric groups are the volumes and host connections. In this section we will discuss how to install and configure the Spectrum Control Mediation Pack. In the next few slides we will discuss the Mediation Pack contents. After you download the Spectrum Control Mediation Pack, you must uncompress the zip file, which contains the following directory structure. Note that both the config and bin directories contain subdirectories of the scripts and configuration files to be copied to either the Predictive Insights server or the Spectrum Control server. Also note that the Spectrum Control subdirectories in the bin and config directories contain platform-specific versions of the scripts and configuration files to be copied to the Spectrum Control server. The config directory contains the on_spectrum_control subdirectory, which contain the platform-specific configuration files for Windows, AIX and Linux, which are needed for the run script. Also the on_py_ directory contains the configuration files that are needed by the Python script that is executed on the Predictive Insights server. The contents of these configuration files will be discussed later in the presentation. The docs directory will contain the user guide and the README files for the deployment procedures for the Mediation Pack. The license directory contains the license files that govern the usage of the Mediation Pack. The bin directory contains two subdirectories for both the Spectrum Control and the Predictive Insights server scripts. On this slide we will discuss the run script which is executed on the Spectrum Control server. The function of the run script is to extract or collect the raw data from Spectrum Control and then transfer the data files to the Predictive Insights server. After the files have been transferred to the Predictive Insights server, then the run script remotely executes a Python script on the Predictive Insights server to produce files for ingestion by the Predictive Insights product. In this slide we will discuss the scripts that will be executed on the Predictive Insights server. The Spectrum Control.sh script is used to launch the Spectrum Control_generator Python script which takes the input files that were transferred from the Spectrum Control server and converts them into 5-minute interval CSV files. Note that users should not edit the Python script. The PA model directory contains the Mediation Pack model which consists of the attributes and metric definitions. This file is imported into Predictive Insights product using the mediation tool. The sample directory contains a sample CSV file representing the sample captured data streams that can be used to try the Mediation Pack output in the Predictive Insights product. The following slides describe the steps that are necessary to add the Mediation Pack to your Operations Analytics Predictive Insights environment. The first step is to configure the scripts that will be executed on both the Spectrum Control and Predictive Insights server. The second step is to configure the data model. The last step will be to create the topic. This slide is an overview of the script execution process on both the Spectrum Control and Predictive Insights servers. The run.sh script is executed every 15 minutes to execute the export performance data script which is provided by the Spectrum Control product. The script produces metric files that are stored at the Spectrum Control server at the location specified in the mediation props configuration file. The metrics files that have been created will then be transferred to the Predictive Insights server which will then be processed by a Python script that will create 5-minute interval CSV files so that the Predictive Insights product can process them. We will now discuss the configuration files that are needed for the scripts to run properly on the Spectrum Control server. For step 1 you must copy the files that are listed in the slide from the appropriate platform-specific directories to the Spectrum Control server. In step 2 you must edit the fields in the mediation props file as shown in the slide. In step 3 you can define a sub-list of storage systems to retrieve metrics from by editing the All Storage Systems configuration file. If you do not want a sublist and want to have all storage systems metrics, then leave the file blank. For step 4, if you are running Spectrum Control on a Windows server, make sure that the plink and pscp files are copied to the Spectrum Control server from the appropriate Mediation Pack directory. In step 5, make sure that you have copied the appropriate platform-specific run script file to the Spectrum Control server. The file path parameter is the path that the CSV files will be written to on the Predictive Insights server. All of the above-mentioned files that are copied to the Spectrum Control server should reside in the same directory. This slide will discuss the steps to set up for script execution on the Predictive Insights server. First, download the Anaconda package on the Predictive Insights server using the command shown in red. Make sure that the downloaded .sh script can be executed and then execute the script. Answer all questions that the script produces and follow the prompt replies in this slide. Finally, copy the files shown in step 2 on the slide to the Predictive Insights server. For step 3, you must edit the Spectrum Control_props file and specify the input files path, the py_file locations and the output files path. On step 4 you must edit the Spectrum control script file and enter the path of the Anaconda binary directory on line 2 of the script file. On step 5 make sure the shell script is executable, and for step 6 you must enter the path to the Spectrum control script in the mediation props configuration file. In order for the automatic file transfer to occur between the Spectrum control server and the Predictive Insights server, a SSH key should be set up as shown in this slide. Generate the key by using the SSH keygen command in step 1. Then display the SSH key by using the command in step 3, and copy the key to the Predictive Insights server and restart the SSH server as shown in steps 4 through 6. The following slide shows how to transfer the files if Spectrum Control is running on Windows. Execute the run.bat script file, and when prompted if the keys should be stored locally, reply yes. The steps to schedule a cron job to execute the run.sh file are shown in this slide. Note that the red 15 indicates that the cron job will be run every 15 minutes. You must make sure that the correct path to execute the run.sh file is set. The following slides show how to schedule the run script on a server if the Spectrum control is located on a Windows server. First, open the Windows scheduler as shown in the slide and make sure you select the option of run whether the user is logged on or not. Click Next to continue. Then enter the time that you want to initiate the script for the first time, and in the advanced settings set the repeat the task every 15 minutes, then click OK. Then in the Actions tab set the location of the run.bat file as shown in step 6 of the slide. For step 7 in the Conditions tab set the options as shown in the slide. Finally, for step 8 select the options shown on the slide for the Settings tab and verify that the task is running every 15 minutes by checking for the presence of files in the Predictive Insights server. The next step to perform is to configure the data modeling by importing the model file into the Predictive Insights server. First, copy the PA model file to the Predictive Insights server where the mediation tool is installed. Then change to the $PI home bin directory to launch the mediation tool, and go to the File pull-down menu and click on the Import button as shown on the slide. Select the Predictive Insights model in the menu and click on Next. Select the Spectrum Control PA model file and click on OK. When prompted, click on Finish to complete the import process. We will now discuss how to configure the Spectrum Control data model data source. To configure the data source, enter the data source name as Spectrum Control and the file path of the Spectrum Control CSV files. You must also make sure the time zone is set to UTC. After the data source has been configured, you must verify that the Spectrum Control metric groups are appearing. To do this, select any metric group and click on the red circled icon shown in the slide. The last step in configuring the data model is to create the topic. To create the topic, log into the Predictive Insights server, change to the $PI home bin directory of Predictive Insights, and then run the command that is shown on steps 3 and 4 in the slide. In this section we will discuss how to deploy the data model and start the data training process. To deploy the Mediation Pack, right-click on the model file and select the Deploy Model option as shown on the slide. For the next step, enter the host name, database, port number, and user and password of the Predictive Insights database. After you enter the user and password, click Yes to deploy the model. You will now start the data training process by logging into the Predictive Insights server, and change to the $PI home bin directory. After you have changed to the directory, run the commands shown in steps 3 and 4 in the slide. After the data training process has started, you can check on the process by looking at the active event list as shown in the slide by logging into the event console and searching for the spectrum control events. Typically, the training process can take up to 2 weeks before the anomalies are accurately predicted. When the training process is complete, you can review any detected anomalies by logging into the console and navigating to the Detected Anomalies page as shown on the slide. To view an anomaly, right-click on the anomaly in the active event list and launch the Service Diagnosis tool, as shown in the slide. You can now review the metric behavior over a time period as shown on the slide. If you experience any problems, you can open a problem management record with IBM support. When you open the problem ticket, you must provide the product name and version of the Predictive Insights software that you are using. You must also provide the Mediation Pack name and version that you have installed. When opening the problem management ticket, you must provide screenshots and extracted files by running the command shown in the slide. Also, you should provide a use case description when the problem occurred. For information on IBM Operations Analytics, refer to the URLs that are shown on the slide. The following slides contain notice and disclaimer information. Thank you for viewing this presentation of the Mediation Pack for Spectrum Control for the IBM Operations Analytics Predictive Insights product.